Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Tampa Bay Real Producers podcast. This, of course, is the podcast made for real producers, by real producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's real producers, such as our guest today, Mr. Peter Ripa. How you doing, my man?
Doing well, thank you. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to visit.
Yeah, no doubt. This is going to be a lot of fun, diving into your story a little bit. We met Peter at our MVP social just last month, really, because if those of you who know our magazine, we just featured Peter as our rising star in the October 2023 issue. So congrats on the feature. Was that your first time being featured in a magazine, or have you done that before?
Feature for Rising Star, yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good experience.
Yeah.
Everything went okay?
Yeah, no, it was humbling, obviously, to have a colleague recommend me, and Mary Marconi with Caldwell Banker. You don't know who's watching, but you work hard, you listen, and you keep grinding. But it was special, and certainly appreciate the recognition.
No doubt. As Peter just said, he's with Caldwell Banker. So cool. It was cool to kind of learn your story a little bit more when we hooked up. So let's start really for people who don't know you with your background and how you got yourself into Tampa and into the real estate world. So I know you have a pretty cool background with golf and radio and some other things. So why don't we start with where you grew up, what some of the things that you experienced were, and then how you got yourself to Tampa.
Yeah, what's funny is, graduated from USF, Tarpon Springs High School, met my wife in high school, and then for career, made it around the country from Atlanta to Fort Worth to San Diego. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, in the golf industry, ran professional golf events, PGA Tour events in Fort Worth at Colonial,
okay,
and then in San Diego at Torrey Pines for the Farmers Insurance Open. And then fast forward, promised that with our two kids, once they graduated from high school, I'd get my wife back home to the Tampa area. She has three sisters here in the community. So I went from zero to hero by getting back home.
There you go. You got to make the wife happy. We all know that.
Yeah.
So you both grew up here, it sounds like, in this area.
Yeah, so
right?
I went through high school here. My dad was a New York City fireman, retired. Obviously, you're from New York.
Yeah.
You're going to retire to Florida.
Yeah.
So made it through high school here, and that's I was one. It was funny. My wife's family, born and raised here, so they had a tough time understanding my accent. I don't know. I have no idea what he's saying.
I don't even hear the New York accent coming out right now.
And what's funny now is when I have two brothers who still think the New York's the center of the universe. So when I go back up there, I'm a man without a home, because they're like, man, you sound Southern.
You've tammed it down a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Connecticut, so I know the New York area well. I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut. I'm sure you know that Fairfield County area. And I do miss that area sometimes, but I went to college here, University of Tampa, and then, kind of fell in love with the Bay Area ever since. But were you always passionate about golf? Was that something you loved playing, or how did that happen?
What's funny is I worked in high school at Innisbrook Resort. Okay. And going to USF, I was a finance major, right? And I was all fired up, and I'm going to make my first $1 million by the time I'm 30. I'm going to get in finance, and then I interned 2 summers with an organization, American Junior Golf Association, that runs events for kids who have aspirations of playing college golf.
Okay.
And did that nationally, and did that as an intern 2 years. And then all of a sudden, my senior year, they offer me a full-time position as a tournament director. And I'm thinking, you know what, let me do this for a couple of years. We'll do this, and then I'll get back to my finance background.
Right.
And as it turned out, just incredible people, incredible environment. You meet some wonderful, in that case, parents, just giving people.
Yeah.
Who were supporting on the community level, and you felt like you were making a difference, and everything else was kind of put on hold.
Seems like it would be a fun business.
Yeah.
Just to travel around. So when you say you did PGA events, like was it all PGA events?
Yes.
Like everyone hears the big ones, right? The Masters, the US Open, the PGA. So were you involved with all of those?
We were just, so as a tournament director and CEO for specifically the Farmers Insurance Open, and at that time it was the Crown Plaza Invitational at Colonial, which is now Charles Schwab Challenge, you're responsible for that event.
Okay.
So you have a staff and a team, and we're responsible for generating revenue for the event. That you have your title sponsor, you fulfill their their obligations that are committed to through the PGA Tour and a 3-party, as well as with the host organization. So in Fort Worth, I worked for a club.
Okay.
And in San Diego, worked for a nonprofit, 501c3 nonprofit, which was the Century Club of San Diego. So here in the Tampa area, the Valspar Championship, Copperhead Charities would be the 501c3, and what it's made up of is 200 plus men and women who are civic minded, who will introduce their personal and professional relationships to the event, and the objective to sell and promote the event. So with our team, we promoted the event, we conducted the event, we sold, we had to generate, anywhere between 8 and 10 million in active sales annually.
That's in like sponsorships.
The buckets that would be as sponsorship, pro-am, and hospitality. Hospitality represents your growth, because once you sell a certain number of sponsorship categories, those high dollar ones, sort of flatten out, and you don't want to dilute those top partners.
Totally.
And, so those categories get filled. So then your real growth year over year is hospitality. And that could be an experience anywhere from a upgraded venue where it's pay as you go for food and beverage, all the way up to a private suite for 100, where you've got your own bartender and food, and you're sitting there on the 18th green.
Yeah.
And
so you were focused on particular events, though. It wasn't
just
like
that event. Those two events.
Just those two. And that one was in Fort Worth and one was San Diego.
That's correct. That's correct. And then it was the relationship with the PGA Tour, which we would be responsible for, as well as the relationship with the players and their representatives.
Yeah. Did you get to go out and play at all with the pros?
I have played with them, but more often I would tell you that I probably tournament week would maybe see 2 or 3 shots.
Really?
Because you spend so much time, and it's funny. Tournament week, obviously you're there for your title sponsor, and you're making sure any of these. What's really cool too about, and to take a step back, PGA Tour players, like 99% of them, you see them. They are great guys, and what is great from a host organization's perspective and an organizer's perspective, as well as a title sponsor's perspective, is when you roll 3 of these guys into a reception, and you introduce them to the CEO and then their clients, you don't have to worry about what's going to come out of their mouth. They are independent contractors, but they have already been in this environment, even the younger guys, and they're totally comfortable with it. And it's just very gratifying that you have the athletes, and there is a sponsorship program where guys would go ahead and, we would have access to 10 guys to bring to visits, not only with our title sponsor, but it may be our, like in San Diego, we had the lodge. We bring it to their guests. And so now all of a sudden they see that they're just regular dudes.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they'll go have a beer with them, and then they're there for 45 minutes, and they're not looking at their watch. It's like,
and it's amazing how good they are, though, at the sport.
And
for someone who plays, recreationally, and I'm sure you're better than I am, but I do love the game. I love playing, and I get out there, and I probably play once a month now, I would say, with my family and everything. But and golf could be a very frustrating sport, as you know, I'm sure. But then you go out, and I sometimes will go to Valspar and watch the pros do their thing, and just the shots they make and the way they recover. I'm always impressed by when a shot goes haywire, how quickly they can get that back on track and still salvage par, or even birdies in some case. That's really impressive when the everyday golfer hits a bad shot and the whole hole's ruined, you know, and one bad shot leads to another. And it's just funny how they're so in tune to that sport and how good they really are. You appreciate it when you see it in person.
Yeah. And they are truly athletes. That conversation's over. Tiger changed that for everybody. And I can tell you, when I was at Colonial my first year, and that was like 2006, our bar in the locker room, it was probably, for alcohol, was somewhere around the $12,000 range. By 2009, I think it was, we were spending $12,000 on protein shakes and maybe $1,500 on alcohol. And guys, and then the alcohol bill was really, it was beer for their caddies. So when the money went on this trajectory, guys got serious.
They took it the right way,
When Tiger was rolling, 7 wins a year, there comes a point where guys are like, all right, I come into this game, I better have, the fitness and take it serious, but also my practice and take it serious.
Did Tiger play in your tournaments?
He did in San Diego, and was fantastic. We saw him, he won, I think it was 2013, and, he's just a rock star. I mean, anybody, from the era of the Beatles or the Stones, I mean, whatever, you just name.
The gallery is ridiculous.
One we would have so you would have, obviously we have PJ Tour security, but then also PD, and they would know the movement and when he's coming on property, and then we'd get it over the radio, and just so our ops team would be prepared, because I'm going to tell you that it's unbelievable when you're standing at the first tee and you get that heads up. You just got to make sure, and it could be early in the morning, that's usually when you'll play, but you got to make sure you're prepared, because out of nowhere, in 5 minutes, you got 1,500 people to show up, and then all of it turns into 5,000, and you see grown men in a full sprint that probably haven't run in 10 years just for a look.
I know it.
Along the rope line.
I know it.
Of Tiger, and you're hearing stuff like, "I love you, Tiger." I mean, just like, what is going on?
The groupies, man. That's what it is. I was there in Valspar in 2019 was the year he won the Masters, right? I'm pretty sure.
2018.
It was 18. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was there because this is like the warm up to the Masters, right? And so I was at Sunday because Tiger was in contention that Sunday, and this was his whole journey coming back, all this stuff. He hadn't won anything yet. And he was threatening to actually win the tournament, right? Yep. He didn't win. He ended up losing by a stroke. But man, the madhouse, the gallery, I was blown away by just how much of a circus it was, with the massive swarms of people that were following his around the whole course, right? And then I somehow got in there on the 18th hole, and when he was coming up the final green, just the amount of people that were swarming the course behind him. I mean, I can't imagine how you play golf like that, you know, with all these people.
And you're the guy playing with them, and they could care. Crazy. They move. They could care less about what you do. It's funny you mentioned that, because my roommate from college at USF, Charles, he became fanboy.
Yeah.
He's a successful attorney. He's shooting me this video.
Right.
Here's me with Tiger, like on the 18th tee, and Tiger's in the background. But exactly, I mean, just the euphoria, to see the next shot.
Yep.
People, they lose their stuff.
And for his ability to just block all that out and be able to focus on the next shot and not be distracted by the chaos. I mean, that in and of itself is crazy impressive. That you can actually win and play like that. And then, long story, he ended up winning the Masters like a week or two later. So it was crazy.
That was a cool story.
That was his comeback. But so how long were you in that business?
So I was there until 2019, and then. So totally, I mean, it was 35 years, and then events around 15 years.
You missed it at all?
PGA. I will tell you what, I enjoyed, wonderful people, whether a PGA Tour, working with the athletes, genuinely enjoyed working with the athletes and their team. Just good people. I will tell you that it's a ton in the way of stamina. Like, you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And you're talking 16, 18-hour days, and with that, you got to make as good a decision at 6:30 in the morning as you would at 10 at night, and stuff happens. Once you have 150,000 people and all your partners and all the players and their team on property, there's just
you don't know what's going to happen.
You just need to be at the pulse, and you're going to get a call at 10 at night, and you just have to solve and get it behind you and be ready for the next day. So,
and then when the event's over, you're already looking forward to the next year, right?
Oh yeah, no, it's just, and there is some post-mortem, because like everything, you're a big deal. So we're doing, tournament week, you're doing 5 to 10 interviews a day.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, all that attention, it's easy to get kind of plugged in and used to that. And then all of a sudden the caravan moves.
Yeah.
And it's quiet as could be, and it's deafening. And then for the next 90 days, you're coding bills.
That's the fun stuff.
Making sure you're only paying for what you actually used or the service.
Did you get to play a lot, though, when you were in the business?
I played probably 50 times a year, and it was more client golf.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as much recreationally. And with the kids still young, you wanted to make sure that you were there for them.
Yeah.
But just having, and that's the thing with the golf courses you play on, as well as for the team at Valspar to play Innisbrook. I mean, you think about the places when you do have guests or clients come into town. It was great for us and our partners. If you think San Diego, you think Torrey Pines.
Mm-hmm.
You think Fort Worth, you think Colonial, and you certainly here at Innisbrook, they want to play Copperhead, and that is a great opportunity to be able to leverage, and have a golf course when you do play the client golf, because it is so memorable.
No doubt. And I mean, transitioning into the real estate world, like I think there's an affiliation where a lot of people view. I mean, pretty much all business is done on the golf course, right? But I think as an agent with freedom and your schedule, I could see where there would be another place to meet clients.
Yeah.
Was that a bridge for you in any way from golf to the real estate world? Like, when did you start getting this interest in real estate? And was that due to the golf connections or not really?
Well, it was funny. Steve Slocum, who is also a colleague with Caldwell Banker, made the similar transition. He was with Golf Week, and it was about 6 years earlier, and we had the conversation for about 3 hours. We'd worked together in the business, and we talked about the parallels, and then how it was that he saw himself, begin to get the flywheel going. And it's, you do business with people you trust and you like, but most importantly, the people that you know. So for me, and as we talked about it as well, it's like you have to be visible and present with the communities and go narrow and deep. Everybody has their own playbook. So the playbook it was not a whole lot different than the success of coming into Fort Worth, where I had never lived before, or San Diego, where I had never lived before, where you get to know the people who were at the club. You need to know the mayor. You need to know the chamber. Well, in my communities, I live in Heritage Springs. I play on Saturday mornings with the guys, and I part of the Y, and then I'm also part of Copperhead Charities as a member, advocating and promoting the event. And those are, to get to know the people that are interested in truly the communities that you are a part of, as opposed to just, throw some marketing out there and hope it sticks, but to genuinely get to know, and where people get to know you as well. And then all of a sudden, everything that I've had in the way of business and real estate has really been through referrals, and then folks that I do know. It's relationships.
So were you already licensed when you moved back to Tampa?
Yeah. No,
So you came to Tampa first. Did you know you were going to get started with real estate at the time?
Yeah, no, I was actually looking at opportunity, and I had, consulting as well. But the thing was, like, I don't want to travel or relocate anymore. This is why I moved here.
Right.
And then the pandemic hits, and then it's quiet, and then coming out of it, in 21, I think it was, and to have this conversation with Stephen, all right, what's next? I was gonna, I was just looking to say, all right, can I find something that give me a 10, 15 mile radius where I can this could be my world.
Yeah.
And spending that time with Steve, it just was, I think it was on March the 17th. And by May 1, had my license. I just put
that
my
was
mind
2020?
21.
21.
Yeah.
Okay, so
so I was just like, let's go in. And that's, and it does take, when you do see it, and as clear as it pictured to me as, all right, here is this path, here's the opportunity. And then at that time, it's so easy when you get rolling and you go through training and you pick people's brains. It's like you could go in 5 different directions. And I remember early on just having the advice that, provided to me that you pick 2 things and just go narrow and deep.
Yeah.
Just go narrow and deep in those, and trust it, and trust that process. And again, it doesn't just happen, but it's like a flywheel. And that's one too, where, even looking in and considering teams, I was just like, all right, I have not fully built out the model and vision that I see for the business. And frankly, it's really nice now, especially dealing with, not dealing with, but having oversight from the boards, and there's the check and balance, is having full decision rights to make great decisions and give this a shot and lean into it. as well as, yeah, you're going to fail on some, but I appreciate having those decision rights.
What made you select Caldwell? Is that what you're speaking to right now?
Yeah. So yes, I mean, overall in the business,
Yep.
as opposed to going to a team, or with somebody that, under their wing. So with Caldwell and spending time with Steve, having a corporate and a more structured organization, certainly the brand meant something to me, because I didn't have brand equity in the space.
Yep.
So and I felt like, I wasn't just gonna jump out there and get volume. I was gonna bang the 100 calls a day. It wouldn't fit what I felt was my brand, or who, and authentic to who those were in my sphere of relationships, whether it be friends and or those in the industry.
Yeah.
And so now having those referrals come from out of town, similarly, as well as those relationships that you do have in town, you're true and authentic to what your voice is, but it also is a brand that gave me instant credibility.
No doubt.
And
everyone knows Caldwell Banker. Yeah.
Right.
So when you think about your first full year after getting licensed, did that year match what your expectations were getting into the business? Was it more challenging than you thought it was going to be, or was it pretty much what you expected?
No, it was more challenging. I had you work hard and you go through the process, and you go through your prospecting, and you use your database, and you make sure you're reaching out to people, and similarly your emails and your direct marketing, and you're making sure that it's useful information that you're providing, but you're checking in genuinely with people and following up with phone calls, as well as, all right, who can I have lunch with? Who can I meet with for coffee? And just until you get the first, your first listing or your first sale, and I guess I probably would have figured I would have got it 3 months earlier.
Yeah.
But everybody has, because you just trust that you continue to do and believe in that process, and you're doing it every day. And one thing that I felt was very important for me is I go to work every day. Like I'm in the office every day. And
treat it like it's a 9-to-5 gig. Yeah.
Right. And obviously you got your appointments, but my learning curve, and granted, I mean, it's, whether it's the contracts, nuances, negotiating, understanding MLS or whatever it may be, the sneaker network of walking in, over to a colleague, and that's what I think too, where I felt very comfortable with, our folks in Palm Harbor, Clearwater offices. I could walk up to any of our colleagues, as well as the most successful, like Mary, and be able to go and pepper her with questions, and they had the time.
She was willing to support you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not true, I think, in all organizations, right? There's an element of culture that really resonates with certain organizations. And it sounds like you were blessed to be able to be in an environment where you had some culture of support.
Right, because sometimes I get it, where your only resource may be your broker, or their number two.
Right.
You may not have access to them, and that was never the case. And similarly, colleagues too, all have specialties, and we do, and we had started a agent mastermind where we do pick topics, but but we also, it's okay to just, hey, let's have a coffee talk for an hour.
Yeah.
Let's just explore what, we discovered this last month, what we're struggling with, or what we're working on. If somebody wants to take a victory lap, that's great. Do it.
Yeah. But let's celebrate with them.
It helps and it's easy to get your blinders on and then just grind, because I'm one who would grind. So if you ever play golf or you play basketball with me, I'm the guy you want on your team, because you're
the hustler. You're chasing every loose ball.
Yeah, I'm chasing every loose ball. I'm getting
throwing elbows.
Rebound. I will throw an elbow. I will grind out for that 7. And so what would you score? Yeah, and it's just that. It was my nature. My dad, New York City fireman, and worked hard. I mean, he just instilled us, and then as kids, but. It's
so has your business, Peter, still been
on.
all about just building up the network? Have you dabbled with any other strategies, methods that that have become part of your current way of doing business? Or is it still just about continually to build up the referral base, build up the network, and slowly and gradually see things grow over time? Has that been your strategy, and that's still what you prefer to do?
Yeah, I would continue to build those relationships, and in my areas and my communities where I can be visible.
Yep.
With visibility, you build trust. But I've found myself, and you listen to podcasts as well, but I listen to Jordan Harbinger. And one of the things, his 6 minutes, I've actually, went and took that 6-minute networking, and I've adopted and kind of tweaked some of it. But what's so funny is, especially as I've, moved around the country.
Yeah.
I've got, one of the first things I did when I settled was I had like 3,500 in my LinkedIn. And I went through the process of, okay, if I were to call them on the phone right now, would they say, "Hey, Peter," or would they say who? And then I went and culled that, and I got it down to about 1,500. So then now, fast forward and going through the process, I've gone back and just reached out, and it could be a simple text or email, and it's, it gives an opportunity. Certainly we get the birthdays or work anniversaries.
Yeah.
Those are layups.
Yeah.
But something meaningful. Hey, just check. It's been ages. Just would love to hear what's going on. See where, I didn't even know you were in, Hilton Head.
Right.
When did you move there? And then all of a sudden it's, give me a call, or, let me know if it's a good time to call you and just catch up. So then I just made it a point to do that with 5 individuals a day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it could be somebody in your text feed, all the way down at the bottom, right? And then you just flip through it, and it's like, oh, son of a gun, that's right. They got a place in St. Pete, and they're here. I had another member from Colonial who I've got to catch up with. He's with Chris Kraft, and I looked, and I see on his feed is like, that's Sarasota, and it's a birthday weekend, but it makes it sound like he lives here. I
think that habit though is so important, and I've heard that before with a couple other people we've had on panels and even on the podcast. And identifying, I think, what are those habits going to be, right, for you that you're going to lean on. And so something as simple as that, but doing it consistently. There's a great book out there called The Slight Edge. Author's Jeff Olson. I read it years ago, and it's just about that principle. Like whatever those daily habits are going to be that you're willing to commit to, and it doesn't even have to feel like work. It just becomes part of your habits, right, and part of your routines.
You should be doing it, right?
And it's
genuine as a friend, as a relationship, and we all grow. We all know
real estate is a relationship business, so
we all grow apart in our lives. You've got family. You've had 2 job or career moves since we worked together. And you lose track,
no doubt,
with folks. And the other opportunity is volunteering, and contributing. So whether it's contributing in the community I live, or contributing to like the Valspar Championship as a member.
So what's your role with them now?
So we have, as I mentioned, the Copperhead Charities.
Yep.
We have 200 plus men and women who are civic minded, who are committed to promote, sell, advocate for the Valspar Championship, and introduce their personal and professional relationships to Valspar, so that whether it's individuals who are looking purely to entertain and guys and couples night, or a couples day out, or leverage their business objectives through the event in client hosting and or branding, sponsorship. So
do you have any affiliation with the person who does your job, your old job, for Valspar? Is there any of that conversation that you're kind of in the know as far as what's happening to running that event?
That's at the board level, and Tracy West is certainly, and her team are fantastic. And they really, if you were to take the time back to 2011, 12. 13. It was a tough spot, but a lot of events got exposed and fundamentals during the recession. So with Tracy and the team from ProLinks coming in with that professional leadership, with the board, and doing it the right way, where you just need to have everybody at the party You know, you think about, having the Lightning, et cetera. So celebrating Tampa Bay sports through the event has been a huge initiative, but it's become the place to be. And with a bigness, you get that. And then what our role is in each one of our communities is, if mine's West Pasco and North Pinellas, there's a ton in South Pinellas. We've got Tampa covered, so it's important. And Rondé Barber's our co-chairman,
nice.
For the event. So I mean, as a spokesperson,
that's a good name to have on the team.
And he's not a figurehead. I mean, I'm going to tell you that. And then I think it was probably smart and co-chair that role, because it's tough to have the command, and you're demanding 30, 40 hours a week from the chairman, because they have to be, as you just, in your initial question, that is, as a chairman, you're involved with the relationship with the title sponsor.
Yeah, well, it's what you were doing before,
Tour,
right? In Fort Worth and in San Diego.
The host organization. And by the way, in San Diego, where, and you have an owner at Innisbrook, whereas in San Diego, it was owned by the city of San Diego, which brings in variables that have more moving parts than you could possibly imagine.
Right.
That beyond just the traditional event, like where we in Colonial, I worked for the club owned the event. The club was also the host organization. So you got one contract.
Your network in golf, right, over the years, how integral has that been in helping you, what you've been doing on the real estate side now, when you look at the number of deals that you've done over the last few years? Is a good percentage of those deals through the connections that you had because of the golf background, or has it been completely different way, like your old personal network and the ways you described already? We already talked about one of the habits that's been a big thing. I'm just curious, because it was such an integral part of your life for as long as it has, even though they weren't all Tampa Bay people, right. that you worked with, is that network still there, even from people that might be interested in investing in this market potentially? I think it's really smart how you've been focused on a niche, geographic area, right? Some people in the real estate world would call that farming, right? So you're farming Palm Harbor, you're farming that community, and I think there is such a thing as becoming hopefully the big fish in a small pond mentality, which I think you've done well. So I'm curious still if that golf connection has played a role in that, or if it not really has intricately.
So, it's played a small role in having some of those referrals and those relationships come to our market, or, for guidance. So it had to establish time with me, building a reputation, and really much as I had to in the other two communities where I hadn't, nobody here in
so you
the
felt
Tarpon
like you had
Springs
to basically
market
build it from scratch right?
I had to build a reputation here, because coming to market, I mean, certainly folks follow, and friends follow me on Facebook, but they had no idea what I did. So I certainly couldn't roll in like Conor McGregor and, like, hey, I'm a big dude.
The champion's here.
Yeah, I'm here,
Little different.
So you approach it humbly, you get to work.
And your wife was fired up. I got to meet her at the MVP social, so she was happy to be home, right? And and do you have kids?
Yep, 2 kids.
And how old are they now?
My daughter, she's 26, and son 25. She's going to be 26, and son's 23. Yeah.
So were they born in this market? No, they
were born in Atlanta, in the Atlanta market.
And are they liking living in Florida?
Yeah, so my son, he digs it.
Are they even
and then
here?
my daughter, she's working on her PhD, dad brag, at Virginia Tech.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we're
I went
blessed.
to school at Liberty for a year up in Virginia.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had a girl that I was dating actually for a little bit who went to Virginia Tech, and it's a cool area. I like that whole Blackbird Mountains.
Oh,
are
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
they had some
nice
snow. They shot down to us. They were talking.
You've seen
about
those
that
football
already.
reels too, when they play the Metallica song every time the football team comes out. It's like that. It's like a hardcore crowd over there for sure.
Yeah,
they go all out.
Yeah.
So a couple things rapid fire, just for people who might not know you again personally, Peter, and getting to know your story. And so is there a particular book or author or seminar that you feel like you've that has made an impact on you personally or professionally?
Yes. So, over the years had staff that we worked with and leading. So, and with that, leadership books meant a ton. So with that, Leaders Eat Last, Simon Sinek, and then even
book.
following him on, and just whenever I see it come across my feed on LinkedIn, I'll just catch a nugget, and then all of a sudden just, write it down.
He's good. I like his content.
Write it down in my notes. It just keeps you grounded, but it also, even working with colleagues, since I'm not in a leadership position and it's me, but even working with colleagues, it benefits you just to stimulate the conversation and the richness of the conversation back and forth.
Right.
To be an equal and to have them, regardless of whether this is your first week there or you're the top producer, to have everybody contribute. Yeah, there's cooperation, but I think it's important to hear everybody.
You got to have good collaboration, right?
Yeah. So,
with the right people.
So with that, if people were to feel that from me, I think that's where we begin to get some really, for me, selfishly, get some really meaningful feedback. Because if I'm going to be candid and honest and authentic, I would hope, in return, people tend to, offer you likewise.
Do you see yourself wanting to build your own team and have like a leadership role within real estate, or do you like more of just being running your show as an individual producer? What's that vision look like for you for years to come in the real estate world?
Yeah, I do like having the decision rights both ways, and yeah, some of them are painful, but to really pull the thread on, it's important for me to see that I build this, what I have as a vision and the model to where it gets running. So I can't, right now I can't see that I would create a team. But as the volume gets going, certainly would have support. And then if I found the right partner,
right.
And it wouldn't just be because let's go scale this and see how far this can go, or it would have to be fundamentally valued, principled, that, we're in lockstep.
And
that was one. I go back to think of Wally Uline, who was the president and CEO of Titleist, and one of the coolest things about that company, why they were so successful so long, and he was one of the supporters with the AJGA, did a leadership summit for us, is that what came out of Wally's mouth, you talk to a sales rep who is responsible for Pinellas County, you would hear as
Same
if,
thing.
and they had that values and the principles, and that's the way, similar from a service perspective.
It's a good indicator of quality leadership, right?
Right.
Having those core values communicated down.
You would absolutely want the client to feel the same value system, the same principles, so that when a decision came, again, there's not the reputation risk of, okay, we got a little loose on that one.
No doubt.
Or, we should have had that signed in the contract.
One of my favorite leadership gurus is John Maxwell. I love his stuff. I don't know if you read any of his books.
I have not.
He's probably written more books on leadership than maybe anybody out there. He's written hundreds of books all on leadership. And one of my favorites is a book called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And so he just writes this whole book about different ways of communicating, from individual one-on-one to running mastermind type smaller groups to actually speaking in front of thousands of people. And he kind of breaks down tools of how to be able to connect uniquely that most people just don't get in each scenario, right? And so, but that's just one of literally hundreds of his books. And he has a great, online presence, blog, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, John Maxwell has been writing about leadership principles for years. I've gotten a lot. Another one of my favorites is the 17 laws. It's like he uses these long fancy titles sometimes, but it's like the 17 indistinguishable laws of teamwork, right? And I've used those principles in a lot of my team building stuff over the years. It definitely has made an impact. So it might be worth checking out if you're into the leadership concepts. You would love it. What's a favorite movie or TV show? Anything come to mind?
So movie. I mean, you go back to some of those that it's easy to cheer for, like Hoosiers.
I thought you were going to say Caddyshack for a second.
And Caddyshack's one of those. Just let the air out of the balloon and have some. But I like those inspiring movies.
So do I.
And with Bobby Knight,
with some lessons in it.
He was a horse's Patuki, but
that
role in Hoosiers, which he modeled after Bobby, is just like, all right, I can
Gene
see
Hackman
the
did a
grit
great job.
and what you could overcome.
Yep.
So the second part of that was?
I was just saying either TV show or movie, but that makes sense. You have a favorite food?
Yeah, it'd be Italian.
Of course.
Yeah.
Ripa, that makes sense. Any last name that ends with a vowel, I think that's a given, right?
Yeah.
My wife is Italian. Her maiden name was Zavarella.
There you go.
So she has. She's
so it's a whole lot
great
easier
cook.
to sign.
Great Italian cook. Yes. Hill is much shorter for sure. As we put a bow here on our episode, one of the things that I think is always interesting to think about is like the legacies that we leave, right? And what matters most to us. So we always ask this question as you think back, when you do one day sit on that rocking chair and look back on what you would want to be remembered for, right? What do you think, Peter, would mean the most to you with the type of legacy that you would leave personally or professionally, with what you'd want to be most remembered for?
Yeah, good father, good husband, and just contributed to not only community, but contributed to those who he worked with. So if you go in each day with a humble approach, and you can learn a lot as opposed to sitting there waiting to think about what I'm going to say next. If you sit there and listen, and each one of the stories that you have with each one of your clients, and it becomes a relationship, and that it becomes part of you.
Sure.
So that if you I truly look at the role as contributing, and that was tough in even selecting what I was going to do next, because I wanted it to be meaningful.
Yep. Well, I think one of the beautiful things about real estate is it's meaningful on different levels, right? For different people. You have investors where it's very meaningful because it provides great returns.
Right.
Then you got people who just, like, the most emotional thing in most people's lives is where they live, right? It's their home. It's their family that grows up there. I mean, we have also so many memories captured in our house, right? And where we live. So there's a lot of meaning, I think, whether you're just talking to that, residential retail home couple, family, or the investor who's trying to like get a great return. I think it actually hits both things there. It makes sense.
Yeah, I know. And having 150,000 people on property, as well as all those responsibility and crisis management in the middle of a thunderstorm or a windstorm, I actually ripped tents down. Well, that was great preparation for the storms that you have with couples and or clients who may not really see the opportunity and see the bigness of the picture that we can get to. Yes, it's just we just relax. So that calm, I think I can bring to it, having had crisis when it was life or death,
right?
Versus making your way through, understanding each side's interests, and then finding your way to yes, so that
that emotion we just spoke of could sometimes be a negative emotion, right?
Right.
Because there's a lot of emotions tied in.
Oh yeah, no.
To what my home is worth and how it's going to sell and what it'll sell for and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah, and you just want to be that steady heartbeat and
as the true
objective,
consultant.
And it's based on the data.
No doubt, makes sense. So if someone wants to reach out to you, Peter, pick your brain about how you got started, it seems like a lot of your strategies that have been successful revolve around just tapping into the warm market and consistently putting habits in place that are helping you get that spear, more meaningful and get results from that. So if someone wanted to pick your brain, what's the best way for someone to reach you?
Sure. It's my phone number is 858-999-6576, and then all the platforms I'm on at Ripa Realtor.
Ripa Realtor. Oh, That's cool. That's a nice little brand too.
It just rolls.
Ripa Realtor. We'll get that on our description too. So as we do, we end every episode really with the same challenge to anybody who took the time to watch the episode today, and that is to make sure that you do something, that you take an action step based on the information that we had a chance to dive into. A lot of our conversation today was about Peter's background, obviously with his extensive career in golf and the lessons that he learned from that. But we also dove into things like the 5-a-day habit, right? That might be something that you have to think about and implement into your business. If you feel like you're a little bit all over the place, which I know a lot of newer agents sometimes are just like spinning their wheels for that first year or two, that could be a very simple habit that can change the game, is letting you focus on 5 quality conversations a day, right? Reaching out on LinkedIn, your social media, your cell phone, whatever it might be, and connecting with people that you maybe haven't connected with in a while. I also jotted down the book that that Peter mentioned as well. Leaders eat last. Another tip that might be, maybe you just have to pick the book up, right, and read it as something that can help make a difference. Or maybe you just got to reach out to Peter to grab a round of golf with him and pick his brain a little bit more. But whatever it might be, do something, take an action step so that this conversation was going to be valuable and that it'll make you move forward in your pursuit of becoming a real producer in the days and the weeks and the months ahead. So we will see you, of course, on the next episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers. Stay classy. We'll see you there. Bye.